Did you say, tell me what you want, what you really, really want?
Not the last bit. Can't take any credit for that.
I actually got a phone call to say, one of the girls isn't really working out. We'd like you to come back and sing for us. And I met a girl called Victoria, a girl called Melanie, and a girl called Geri. And from that day, I was in the band.
That's us in Japan.
Nicki, look at you.
I know, look at the hair.
Very Lady Diana, that, isn't it? Wannabe was released in July 96. We were on tour in 98, and in the spring of 98, Geri left. So it was less than 2 years of that real Spice Mania that everybody remembers. That was less than 2 years.
Less than 2 years?
Yeah. I wasn't ready to stop. And
Were you not?
No, and I think some of it was fear, and some of it was not wanting to acknowledge some of the issues. When I embarked on my solo career, I was so determined to be seen as an individual. I kind of tried to distance myself from being Sporty Spice. And I think it took me until the tour in 2019 to go, I'm all of these things.
Hello, I'm Nicki Chapman and this is Pop Idols, and I'm delighted to be joined by the incredible Melanie C. Oh. So good to see you.
It's so good to see you. It's been a little while, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah. And can I just say, you are looking magnificent, living your best life, obviously.
Absolutely. Yes, I am.
Well, we're going to be talking about your story, the pop story, the highlights, perhaps some of the lowlights, the magic, the music. We've got to start really at the very, very beginning, before we had even met you. What were you like as a child growing up?
Funnily enough, I was talking about this last night. I've got my mum staying with me at the moment, and I've always been really ambitious, really determined. I started dancing when I was 8 years old, and I was also very athletic. I did lots of sports at school, and I was just driven. I was very physical, and it was quite early I decided I wanted to be a performer, and I was quite confident. You know, I was really confident in my ability, and sometimes now I think, oh, was I insufferable? Was I that kid who was going, I want the lead part?
What did your mum say?
I think, it's funny. I think like a lot of performers, I have a bit of a dual personality where, yes, I'm ambitious. Yes, I'm confident when I'm on stage, but I'm quite shy at the same time. Right. Probably more in social situations, I feel a little bit less comfortable. So yeah, I think a lot of us performers kind of battle with that within ourselves, and it's something you have to try and learn to work with, because nerves are really important. That adrenaline, it makes you superhuman. So if you use them in the right way, but there's kind of like a tipping point when it can affect you negatively. So yeah, it takes a long time as a performer to try and work with that. But then some events are so huge, something like the Olympics. It was lovely. It gave us so much confidence that people wanted us, but it was also terrifying because you knew how many people were out there.
Yeah. So little Melanie, age 8, dancing around the front room, driving everybody a bit potty, but loving it, knowing that focus, having that early talent. If you hadn't done that, what other area would you have gone into, do you think, as a teenager growing up?
I was always very realistic. It was either a prima ballerina, an Olympic gymnast, or a pop star.
Love it. Love it.
And, there wasn't a plan B. Well, there was A, B and C. Some of them were utterly ridiculous, as pop stardom probably is for, a huge percentage of the world. But I was one of the lucky ones that got the chance to do it.
Let's then go forward to that fateful audition. Had you been auditioning regularly for gigs, or was this something that jumped out? And for those that don't know, it was an audition in, was it Stage magazine?
It was in the Stage newspaper, which is still out there, and lots of musical theatre performers, dancers, actors, singers will get this. Well, they used to get this newspaper. Yeah. I'm sure it's all online now. But it was your way of seeing what was out there, whether it was West End shows, touring shows, all different things. And yeah, I left college, I was 19. I left that summer, and I'd been auditioning for a few months and having a few callbacks for different things, but nothing had come to fruition. I think I've maybe done some vocals for a pantomime. I did an odd dance thing, but not a solid contract job. Uh-huh. And I was starting to get quite frustrated because it's hard. Your parents have put themselves out to put you through the college. It's very expensive. So yeah, when you get to this point, but no jobs are coming, it's like, oh my goodness, am I going to have to start thinking about something else?
Yeah.
And I was auditioning for a cruise, which I really didn't want to do because I didn't want to be out of London because that's where all the opportunities lie, especially for West End. And I was handed a flyer, which was the same ad that was in the stage, and it was for a girl band. I went along to the initial audition and I was recalled, but I was ill. So I couldn't attend the second audition. And my mum called the management to beg for me to have another chance, give me a week to get over. I had tonsillitis, so I couldn't speak, let alone sing. And then I thought, well, there's another one gone. The life of a performer, you pick yourself up and carry on. And about a week or two later, I actually got a phone call to say, one of the girls isn't really working out. We'd like you to come back and sing for us. So I was like, oh my goodness, this chance has come back.
Yeah.
And I met a girl called Victoria, a girl called Melanie, another Melanie, a girl called Geri, and a girl called Michelle. And I sang Signed, Sealed, Delivered, Stevie Wonder. And from that day I was in the band. And it was kind of just a done deal. It was odd. And that was interesting. We were getting to know each other. We were gelling in a way, but it was quite obvious that one of the girls wasn't as driven as the rest of us, and that just wasn't going to cut it for us because the other four, we knew what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's when we were introduced to Emma through a vocal coach we were working with. And as soon as we met her, it was like, that's it. Because there's something about, and you will, this, there's something about the dynamic of the Spice Girls when we're in a room together. It's electric. You can't quite describe it. It still happens to this day. It's not very often we get in a room together, all five of us. But there is something magical about those five personalities, that energy, whatever it creates. And it's, I think it's what's carried us through.
You were so powerful, such a powerful force for a band that hadn't even had a hit. Mm-hmm. I remember really clearly the day I met you. Do you remember meeting me?
I think, was it in the office at Brilliant?
Yeah. Well, it's actually at RCA.
Oh, okay.
You were going around to all the record companies, and I was leaving the record label. I was going to set up on my own. And at the time, I had a few bands that I worked. It was Take That and quite a few, Kylie and quite a few others. And you guys came in and, I would say that I'd seen a lot of acts over the years. Mm-hmm. You guys came in and I sat there a bit like this. And I'm going to be honest, I was a bit like, all right, come on. Yeah, impress me, And I was like literally within seconds. Two of you were on roller skates. Someone got up on a table. We literally had to clear backflips, the whole lot. And I can remember sort of like, I need to sit up a little bit now. I need to take note. It was something that I had never experienced before. And I'd worked some really great acts. And Geri came up and she said, right, we're not going to do this. We're the Spice. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do early morning television. We're not. And listed all the things that you weren't going to do. And I think I turned around and I said, look, you guys do what you're obviously brilliant at, and I'll do what I'm quite good at, and we're always going to get on. And you left, and I thought, oh, I might have screwed it up now. They might not want to work with me. I've got to work with them. And then at the time you were with Simon Fuller, manager, and he rang me and he said, they really want to work with you. And I said, well, I'm leaving the record label. I'm going to set up on my own. And you were the first act that I took on.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, again, for you, that was a sliding doors moment as well, wasn't it?
You changed my life.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to break a new act, I've got all their music. And I'll be talking to the producers and having meetings and playing tracks up front and trying to get them excited. With you girls, I did something very, very different. I actually took you in to all the shows.
Yes.
So we went into Planet 24 that made the Big Breakfast and The Word. There were 100 people, open plan office. You stood in the middle and you performed.
Yeah.
And no one had ever done that before. And then we went to Surprise, Surprise, which happened to be the biggest TV show on at the time.
Yeah.
And I took you in and you all started to do your thing. And everyone turned around and the producer, lovely lady called Isabel, and she said, no, we can't do it here. Too many people. We went into the toilets and you sang a cappella in the toilets. And she was blown away. Wow. And one of your first ever TV was, I think, to 14 million people, which was unheard of for a brand new act.
Yeah.
And that wasn't me plugging you. That was the power of you girls.
But you know what's funny? I remember when we did Surprise, Surprise, and there was a young girl, and I can't remember the format of the show, but for some reason she'd won this opportunity to do a radio show, I think it was, and she was introducing a pop act.
Yeah.
And we turned up and nobody had heard of us. Yeah. And I felt really bad for the girl because it must have been like, who are these? Who are these I'm interviewing? But with hindsight, she must be like, I was one of the first people to interview the Spice Girls.
She was. And you performed in a car park downstairs. We did a video. That was the glamour.
It's so glamorous.
Exactly.
So glamorous.
People think, I mean, now it's a different world, but that's how he did it.
Yeah.
But what blew everybody away was your sincerity, your transparency, your motivation, the power of you, and truly believing in that message, that girl power message. It wasn't the record company and it wasn't the manager.
Yeah.
It was the five of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that when we first got together as a band, that wasn't something we'd set out to achieve. You know, we didn't really have, apart from our personalities, there wasn't like an ethos with the Spice Girls. But as we were experiencing the music industry and the wider world, that's when that began to grow. And so, you know, it's thanks to the world being a bit tricky that the Spice Girls realised we have something to say. You know, we have something and some people to fight for. Yeah. And so we're really grateful for that. And it created us. The world around us created us.
And do you think the time that the five of you spent together, living in a house, learning your craft, working with great writers and producers and learning to write as well.
Yeah.
Do you think, you know, were there times there where you think it's not going to happen? It's not going to happen?
Never. We never doubted
I love that.
what we were going to do. You know, and I'm sure you know, we went into Simon Fuller when we met him to see whether he would consider managing us. And we were like, we want to be an international band. We want to make music. We want to make a movie. And, you know, people before him had said, whoa, girls, don't run before you can walk. Simon was the first person to go, yeah, we can do that. And that was the reason he became our manager, because he believed in us.
Yeah, and listened to what you had to say.
Yeah.
Well, really, when Wannabe was being released and you were doing all your promotion, it nearly didn't happen because I made a decision to put you on a TV show. And I'm going to show you a couple of photographs and see if this comes back to you.
Ah.
This was a TV show that Denise Van Outen was hosting. And for some reason, we decided it would be great to put you in a hot air balloon and do some promo for Saturday morning kids TV.
I remember it. I have really vivid memories of this day because we had to get up crazy early, drive out to some field somewhere, and we went up and, it didn't quite go according to plan, did it, Nicki?
It wasn't one of my finest hours. So I didn't quite appreciate, when you go up in a hot air balloon, it has to be around 6 and 7 in the morning for a reason, the thermals. And it was very foggy and misty. And for some reason, we all decided, not you girls, you were just coming along for the ride and being very professional, that we'd go and have breakfast. I think we went to like a little chef or something at the side of the road.
Sounds like the Spice Girls.
Yeah, had a breakfast, went back, and we got into the hot air balloon at about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Is that why it all went wrong?
We went, and it was lovely. Interview, filmed, everything was going great. By this time, it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, and we're drifting, and we're drifting, and we can't get down.
Yeah.
And in the end, we had to throw a rope out, and all these guys that were working in the fields had to literally drag down the basket.
Did we end up in a tree?
I think we hit a few trees along the way. It was a bumpy day. And you know, afterwards, when you look back and you just think...
Can you imagine now?
Can you?
Health and safety.
You wouldn't be allowed to do it,
Well, at least
would
I've been in a hot air balloon thanks to you.
Well,
I've never been in one again.
I know. That could have been at the end of... Anyway, we will move on. Wannabe flies to number 1. Not straight away, number 3 first.
6 in the midweek.
Yeah.
3
was it
on the chart, and then the next week number 1 for 7 weeks. Look at me with me stats.
I'm loving that. I'm absolutely loving that. Overnight, and it was overnight, your life's changed. Can I just take you back to that moment? What was it like, or was it a blur?
Even though it was happening and we'd predicted and hoped, it was going to happen. It happening, still pretty incredible. So the first time we had it on the radio, getting that first chart position, it was all like really, really exciting. And I remember at the beginning, I think it was after Surprise, Surprise, I used to live in Watford. This is quite a funny little bit of trivia for you. So me and Mel B lived in a house that Geri's stepdad owned. And her mum and stepdad lived across the road from us. They were our landlords, so we couldn't get up to any mischief. But we were in Watford, and I went to the Harlequin to go shopping. And I'd been on the telly once, and I thought everybody knew me. I was like, everyone recognised me. I was walking around going, "No, this is so weird. Everyone knows me." Nobody had a clue. It was a little bit of time after that, but quite quickly we became very recognisable. And I think it was more so after the single went to #1, but we were in Japan promoting the album. And I think we did 2 Top of the Pops performances from Japan, and we were dying to get in the studio because it was all our childhood dream to perform on Top of the Pops. We had a #1 single and we couldn't do it, and luckily it stayed there long enough. And when we got back from Japan and the single had been #1 for 3 weeks, that was when everything changed.
Do you know what? I have hardly any photographs of my time with you, because back in the day...
We just didn't take pictures,
Oh my God, you so didn't ask.
Yeah.
Biggest regret. That's us in Japan.
Ah.
And what I am going to mention, because you are so...
Nikki, look at you.
Oh, no, look at the hair.
Oh my
You
gosh.
needed
It's very
to-
Lady Diana,
You
that,
did.
isn't it?
Probably did the look as well. You needed to have had a word with me. You really did. Shocking. We're going to move on. You're too modest to say this, but you got off a flight to Japan that you hadn't been to before. What is a Japan flight? 13 hours?
Yeah.
It was boiling hot.
Yeah.
None of you had slept on the plane. You got straight to the hotel. You had showers. I think you did your own hair and makeup, put your outfits on. Then we take you to a temple.
Yeah.
And we've got cardboard cutouts of the Top of the Pops logo. Performed it again and again, because I think we only had 1 or 2 cameras and it had to be a multi-camera shoot. And that stamina, never complaining. Right, what do we need to do? We're exhausted, but we can do it. Can someone get us some food? You know, that dedication that you had, all of you, was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think we all come from backgrounds with a really strong work ethic. You know, I would say most of the band are from a working class background, and our parents all worked really hard, you know, some of them to actually get food on the table. So we knew if you wanted something, you had to work for it. But I need to, obviously, you said I'm modest. I'm not going to be modest now. Let's all remember, I did the backflip. You know, so I did get off that plane and all the things that you said, but every take I had to do a flipping backflip.
Again and again. And who decided to put that into the routine? Melanie.
It's probably me.
Yeah.
Showing off.
Yeah, there you go.
It was getting worse and worse every take. Got to land on my head at some point.
Yeah, there was no cushioning. It was all concrete, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to move forward to Say You'll Be There. This is sort of
Yeah.
new confidence, this new sound, a bit of attitude. Memories of that time.
So this was really exciting because we were so happy at Virgin Records. Obviously, the first single went great. And then Say Be There, Virgin realised they were onto a good thing. They put a bit of money in the kitty and we had a much better video. I mean, Wannabe's iconic,
It is.
right? But it was on a bit of a shoestring. But the second video, we were in the Mojave Desert in California. And that was when it felt like, yeah, we've made it.
Proper showbiz.
Yeah.
And also that confidence coming through, and things were happening not just in the UK, around the world, including America.
Yeah. It was a funny time, wasn't it? Because obviously now with the internet, everything's instant. So, you know, when you release music, it goes everywhere all at once. But back then we were able to like stagger things. So we released in Japan first, which was great because it gave us an opportunity to kind of learn a little bit of our craft. And it was relentless. Do you remember the schedules in Japan? They were literally like by the minute, weren't they? And everything's clockwork and it's wonderful. It works that way, but it's relentless. And then, of course, when things started to move in America, because for any British artist, America that's the place you want to crack. It's so hard to do it. Not many artists have done it.
True.
And once they embrace you, it's an incredible market to work in and have success in.
So the Spice Girls have gone truly global. You've got a film under your belt.
Yeah.
Stadiums. Everything is absolutely flying. And then at what point did you ever think, how are we going to sustain this? How can we keep going at this level?
When we were on tour, I think it was new levels of exhaustion. And that was when people started to look about what's next, started to think about what's next. And those conversations started.
Was that a scary time, or did you not think it's actually ever going to happen?
Yeah, I think when that first came up, I can see being on a tour bus and us having this conversation, that freaked me to the core, because I was literally doing the thing I'd dreamt of all of my life, and at a level which not many people get to, it's the ultimate.
Yeah.
So I didn't want it to end, no.
And when it started to, in a way, unravel, which it did, and I didn't appreciate how short a time you actually were together.
Yeah, it's nuts. So we auditioned in 1994. We were together for a couple of years, figuring out who we were, getting our songs ready. And Wannabe was released in July 96. We were on tour in 98, and in the spring of 98, I think maybe it was around May time, Geri left. So it was less than 2 years of that real Spice Mania that everybody remembers, all the hit singles, the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was less than 2
years.
Yeah.
And in that time, I don't think I want to know the answer because I'm going to feel really bad. How many days off do you think you had?
Very few. Very, very few. I think that was one of the things, because part of the story is that we did leave Simon as our manager.
Yeah.
And I think we just got to the point where we were like, this is too much, inspired the song. And we felt like we needed to take a little bit more control over how things were going.
And also that public scrutiny, that pressure, wherever you were, people, there wasn't social media then, that's a whole new level, isn't it?
Yeah.
But at the time, the tabloids, everybody wanted a bit of you.
Yeah.
Did you really feel that you were under a huge sort of magnifying glass?
Absolutely, the whole time. And it was a really hard time, I think, for anybody in the public eye. And obviously so much has come out now about that time, and we know there was illegal methods used to get some of the information that was used in articles. But it wasn't only used in articles, it was used against you. There was some very personal things and some very difficult times that I went through, and they got this information and they bullied you with it. They threatened you with it. The British tabloid media have a reputation around the world for being the cruelest. Things have changed a lot. They had a big shake-up when all of those findings came out. But in the 90s and the noughties, and the way culture was, the way TV was, the questions we were asked, the way we were treated, the things we were asked to do, the things that were expected of us, that would never happen now, never. But at the time, it's the way it was. You just got on with it.
Yeah.
And we were kids. We were like late teens, early 20s, figuring out who we were under huge scrutiny. And the British media, they have this reputation. They, in a sense, made us. But then once you're there, they try and pull you down.
Yeah. The great thing about the five of you is I can remember the back chat. I can remember the answers.
Oh, my goodness.
You were so brilliant. And journalists had never seen anything
There's
like it.
There's some great clips online. Some of it's grainy old footage. But if we did not like a question, if we didn't like something that was happening on the TV show, we'd say it. I think obviously there are more outspoken members of the band. And this is where Melanie B comes into her own. She's not afraid to say, no, I'm not answering that.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah. How dare you ask me that? How dare you ask my mate that?
Which is what you wanted.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that was the great thing. If I'd ever tried to have a solo career from the get-go, I didn't have that confidence. But having, Melanie and Geri almost being the mouthpieces of the band, and, for myself, Emma and Victoria to be there, and we all worked as a team, that propelled us forwards, definitely.
When Geri left, after Geri left, is that when you started to consider your future as Melanie C?
Absolutely. It was hard. We were heartbroken because it was a huge shock to us. We'd had conversations, but we didn't realise how difficult Geri was finding the lifestyle and being on the road, and relationships were strained. We were exhausted. We'd, as you said, virtually no days off in 2 years. So once that changed, and then we were on tour in America, and Melanie and Victoria, I love this expression, fell pregnant. Oh, oops, just fell pregnant. And of course that meant there would be a natural pause in everything. So I wasn't ready to stop.
Were you not?
No, and I think some of it was fear, and some of it was not wanting to acknowledge some of the issues that I had going on personally. Sometimes I've thrown myself into my work to avoid other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm very grateful that I didn't stop at that point, because I went on to make Northern Star, my first solo record, which is a piece of work I'm so proud of.
And did you rediscover yourself in a way, because you'd always been one of 5 and then one of 4?
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're Melanie C.
When I embarked on my solo career, I was so determined to be seen as an individual, and I think I kind of tried to distance myself from being Sporty Spice. So I got different hair and I started to dress differently, and I think it was just this real desire to explore different parts of myself and for people to see that as well. Because I think, as a young person, I didn't, all the merits of being a Spice Girl and Sporty Spice, I didn't take it for granted. I didn't, but I didn't realise how important it was. I was having my own journey. And I played
you're growing
around
up as well, aren't you?
Yeah, and for years and years, I was like, I don't know, maybe, some parts of being a Spice Girl was really hard. Being away from home, having so much scrutiny in the media,
None of us understand it. And I sit here opposite you, having worked with you from the very beginning. I have no idea what you went through.
Yeah.
I always think of it, you in the middle of a glass bowl and I was sitting on the edge, looking in.
Yeah.
So I had elements of it, but you carried on with that every day. I could go home.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing, and I think lots of artists would identify with this, you go out and you play a show and you can be playing to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people, and then you go back to your hotel room and you're on your own. And there's something about the energy of a crowd like that, and then being all alone, which is really lonely. It's
like
crash. You crash down. And I was single for a lot of this time as well. Of course I had support from friends and from family, but I didn't have that other, that would have shared my bed, my hotel room, So it became very lonely at times. So it was hard when I was out there on my own, because I was trying to figure out who I was. And also, you feel like everybody wants the Spice Girls. So everything you do is semi-apologetic, because you think, well, I know you don't want me. You want all of us, So it's really hard to recalibrate who you are and who you want to be. And I think it took me even until the tour in 2019 to go, I'm all of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, my last album, I am Sporty Spice. I'm dead proud of that. And I am Melanie C, a solo artist. But you know what? They're not two different people. It's all within me.
Absolutely. Just different layers of you.
Yeah.
Let's bring it more then up to the current day, and what excites you.
Do you know what? I'm having the best time I've ever had, and I think a lot of it is acceptance, not only of myself, but of this is my life. I constantly travel, and I think DJing has brought me a whole new world. It's reintroduced me into clubbing, which was something I left behind.
You loved it.
I was
How
such
did
a
it
big
happen?
So I did Sink the Pink, if you know Sink the Pink, lovely. Glyn Fussell, one of the founders of Sink the Pink, they have these wonderful club nights, and they invited me to do a PA. So I was singing, I did a few songs, and I talked about how I'd always wanted to DJ. And he said to me, well, why don't you? And I was like, well, Nana's a bit old to learn a new skill. But it's scary. And it's not like, being a Spice Girl, you can't do anything on the down low. If you're going to go and do something publicly, there's a lot of eyes on it.
Yes. A lot of pressure.
Yeah. And I was introduced to a DJ. He went, look, just do a lesson, see how you feel. Oh, I fell in love with it immediately. And I've been DJing ever since. So it's 8 years now. And I still feel like a newbie, but I love it. And it's really informed my new record. I now see music very differently.
Do you?
Yeah, it's so nice to have the perspective of being an artist and being a DJ, watching a dance floor, see how people react to different songs, to different edits of things. And I've always wanted to bring those worlds closer together, and I think with the new album Sweat, I'm closer than I've ever been to that.
Now we've got to wait a little bit longer for the album.
Yes, so it's going to be out 1st of May. And this album, like I say, it's electronic. It's got more of a dance influence.
I love it.
Still a pop record.
Brilliant.
And, you know, there's some more serious moments as well. It's a journey, but there's definitely more fun than I think I've had in the studio as a solo artist before.
How long did it take you to record?
I've been working on this album for about 2.5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I'm of an age where I remember Olivia Newton-John, Let's Get Physical.
Big influence.
You know, really?
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
Must have been, wasn't it?
So in Sweat I have to thank Diana Ross personally for allowing me to use the sample from Work That Body. So the reach 2, 3, 4. It was something I'd wanted to use in a song for a long time, and it's hard to get clearance. It's an iconic track, yeah. Right. But Diana was, you know, very generous in allowing us to use it. So that's in there, and I was looking to all of those, like the aesthetic of this whole campaign. You know, Diana Ross, watch the video, it's amazing. Diana's, not mine. Mine's pretty good too. Olivia Newton-John, Let's Get Physical, Eric Prydz, Call on Me, Flashdance, Kids from Fame.
All in there.
I mean, these are all the things I've grown up on. Yeah. And heavily influenced. And it's so fun. 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties, it's all in there.
Will you be at Glastonbury in 2 years' time, do you think?
Well, I hope so. That's the plan. Let's manifest.
Great, I think if there is one place I think everybody would love to see the 5 of you, would be Glastonbury.
Absolutely. It would be the pinnacle. It's a bucket list.
Yeah.
I think Spice Girls, Pyramid Stage. I like to think that will happen at some point.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
It would be incredible.
When the time is right, as we like to say.
Exactly. I'm literally very strongly manifesting this happening.
We will all do it globally.
Yes. Yeah.
We put it out there.
Yes.
To all your lovely fans.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I could have a pile of cards this high. Everybody super excited about you coming in. But let's do some quick fire one. Alicia says, to my knowledge, no girl group has had a successful debut where all members are over 25. Interesting. Now more artists are debuting later. Do you think there's space for an over 25 girl group to break into mainstream?
Oh, absolutely. I think what's interesting about age now is it seems to be less important. I think just the way we consume music with platforms like TikTok, people don't always know what the artist looks like. Do you know what I mean? So I think people can be surprised and really not care about your age. You know, artists like, Madonna's still killing it.
Amazing.
Kylie.
Yes.
So I feel very proud as a more mature pop artist out there. Because of the way the world is now, we can't retire. We got to keep going.
We're not going to allow you.
And I wouldn't want to. Do you know what I mean? I want to do this forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Maxine from France, Melanie C fan since 1996. You've just appeared in the J.W. Anderson's latest fashion campaign. How did it come about?
Oh, my goodness.
Gorgeous.
Well, I was approached by Jonathan and his team, and I was really flattered. He is a designer that I have so much respect for. He's incredible. And, it blew my mind. And I was like, have they got the right one? What's happening? And I went down, I met him, and he's very lovely. The shoot was incredible. It could be a world that is very intimidating. Obviously, Victoria is, in that world.
She owns
that world. And, for a lot of people who don't enter into it, it can feel intimidating. But the team were incredible. And they really looked after me, and I loved the shots.
You look so comfortable.
Oh my gosh, his clothes, I mean, the fabrics are, you can imagine. I didn't want to take any of them off.
You were at the European debut of the new global girl band Katseye in London recently, says Jenny. Had you followed them much before then? And do you have any advice for a new girl group at the start of their career?
Absolutely. So, I was very aware of Katseye. They're really having a moment. I'd seen some of the show on Netflix that brought the band together. I know how brutal that process was, and they're incredible dancers. I think that really grueling schedule that they have of rehearsals and getting all of the dancing and the vocals completely on point shows within the band. They are superhuman, talking about superhumans.
Really?
Yeah, they're incredible. And it was lovely to work with them, of course. They love the Spice Girls. They're very young to appreciate the Spice Girls, but they do. And I loved that that duality that we have with them. They're from, different cultures, different backgrounds, more so than the Spice Girls, they're from all over the world. and they really use that within their music, within their message, and it's probably the closest to bands like the Spice Girls that I feel. They're a lot more polished than the Spice Girls ever were.
They've learned from the best.
Yes, well,
they've learned from the best.
Yeah, and they were lovely. And and I do always try to impart some advice when I see the girls. But it's mostly about looking after yourself, because it is really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard work. You have to take care and try and get as much sleep as you can.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it has been the most amazing career that you've had, and continuing to do so. If you put someone on the spot and you just said, name an act that had a strong message, the Spice Girls and Girl Power was there at the beginning, and it's there to this day, and it resonates through. So much love for you. So proud of you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the new album.
Thank you so much.
Melanie C, it's been an absolute joy.
Loved it.
Thank you.